think might be misconstrued in that a lot of people picture wedding rings, diamonds, stones that are placed on some sort of a spinning wheel like a big floor grinder, and when in fact it's just simply a diamond saw blade. This is very much, matter of fact, it's exactly like the kind of blade that a mason would use when they are cutting concrete block, or landscapers cutting a concrete paver at your house. Only contractors who are in the highway grinding business will take this blade and they will stack about 100 of them on a 3 or 4 foot wide head. So all these blades are packed close together, forming this large cylinder, mounted on a machine about 2.5 times the size of the van back there. It's driven by a 700 horsepower motor. This is a piece of highway construction equipment, and typically it's used in restoring the trueness to a typical highway. In some cases, even a brand new asphalt surface that just had a few minor defects in it. The state wants the contractors to correct that smoothness with diamond grinding. Well, in 2002, about 7 years after we had paved the track in 1995, we noticed that the evenness, the trueness of this racetrack was just simply deteriorating. After 7 years of Indiana winters and Indiana summers, the surface was cracking and it was becoming untrue. And especially for open wheel cars with aerodynamic packages, that trueness really reflects the aerodynamic performance of those kind of race cars. So we thought to restore that kind of smoothness that we had in 1995, we brought in one of these machines, and we just simply circled the racetrack a number of times. We did it in February and March of 2002, and it brought back that true surface to the racetrack. Well, a side benefit to that is it does impart a little texture. It imparts just very, very small grooves about the thickness of that blade. And so in addition to getting that perfectly true plane, it's virtually like a plane that you would use in a wood shop, it did improve the friction of that racetrack surface. And in 2002, I think we had broken speed records for both the Indianapolis 500 and the Brickyard 400 for like the past 2 or 3 years, just kind of a local record, because of the smoothness and confidence that the drivers had in that surface. Well, fast forward to 2004, when we repaved the racetrack, the surface that we are standing on now. We basically did the same thing. We started in very early 2005. This was after the winter that the racetrack surface was put down. We ground out just some very few minor defects, and when the IndyCar drivers went around it, they said they really liked the grip where we had ground it, but you know, we didn't have that same kind of grip that the previous surface did.
Kevin, just to interrupt for a second, you'd only ground in the 4 corners that first time. Is that what you're referencing?
Yeah, exactly. Just to simply remove some of the very minor defects in the paving, we ground just in the 4 corners, just to take out those defects. And the texture that diamond grinding produces is really, it's so fine. We really didn't think that there would be a texture difference between the unground surface and the ground surface. So at that time we thought it was acceptable to just simply grind in those locations. But the drivers felt enough difference that they said, let's go ahead, grind the racetrack. We evaluated the suggestions. We agreed that it would restore that confidence all the way across the entire stage of the racetrack. And so in March of 2005, in April of 2005, we ground the surface that we are on right now. It took about a week and a half. So in early spring of 2002 and the early spring of 2005, the only times we ever ground this racetrack surface. And to kind of show you what I was talking about, the difference in texture, you'll see right here, this is an area that's the original asphalt texture from 2004. This area right next to it was ground, and you can kind of see how minor the deviations are, how little we're grinding, because the grinder didn't even touch it here and it barely touched it here. But if I take my hand, literally if anybody takes their hand, and as you can see I'm pressing down very hard, as I go from one surface to the next, you'll notice all it does is just takes the dirt off my hands. This is not abrasive, it's not sharp, it's not dangerous, it just simply provides a little additional texture that it might here, although I will tell you, in rubbing my hand across those two surfaces, I really couldn't feel the difference. And I think it's really important for people to understand that diamond grinding does not produce this razor sharp surface that just chews up anything that's on it. It's just a very, very fine texture.